Doctors said his heart beat wrong, until they realized it matched the ancient dragon's heart. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The steady beep of medical equipment filled the sterile examination room as Dr. Natalie Quinn studied the results on her tablet with growing concern. Across from her sat Ethan Cole, a 28-year-old construction worker with an unusual heart rhythm that had baffled specialists across 3 continents. What they didn't know was that his condition would soon connect humanity to a legacy older than civilization itself. "I don't understand," Ethan said, his voice tinged with frustration. "I can run 5 miles without breaking a sweat. I've never fainted or felt chest pain. If my heart is so messed up, why do I feel fine?" Dr. Quinn sighed, setting down her tablet. She'd been treating Ethan for nearly 7 months, ever since his pre-employment physical for Galactic Expansion Initiative had flagged his unusual cardiac rhythm. The GI medical standards were notoriously strict. They had to be, given the harsh environments colonists faced on frontier worlds. But Ethan's case was unique even by their exacting criteria. "Physically, you're in excellent condition," she admitted. "Your cardiovascular output exceeds most Olympic athletes. But your heart doesn't beat like any human heart we've ever recorded. The pattern is," she paused, searching for the right word, "alien. The left and right ventricles contract in a rolling sequence rather than simultaneously. There's a third sound between the normal lube-dub. And sometimes there's what appears to be a complete pause, yet your blood pressure never drops." Ethan ran his fingers through his dark hair. "So I'm healthy, but weird." "Essentially," Dr. Quinn nodded. "But the GI regulations are clear. Without understanding why your heart functions this way, they can't clear you for off-world work." The construction worker's shoulders slumped. Since childhood, he dreamed of helping build humanity's first colonies on distant worlds. The pay for off-world construction was incredible, enough to set his family up for generations. But more than that, he yearned to be part of something greater, to help expand humanity's reach among the stars. "There has to be something we can do," he said quietly. "More tests, specialists, anything." Dr. Quinn hesitated. "There is one option we haven't tried. The Xenobiology department at Meridian Research Station has equipment that might help us understand what's happening. But," she warned, "it's experimental, and getting clearance won't be easy." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Meridian? The station that houses the ancient dragon remains." Dr. Quinn nodded. The discovery of the massive fossilized creature on Europa 17 years ago had revolutionized xenobiology. Though technically not a dragon in the mythological sense, the enormous winged reptilian had captured the public imagination, and the nickname stuck. The first confirmed evidence of complex extraterrestrial life in our solar system, the ancient dragon had become the most studied xenobiological specimen in human history. "I'll do whatever it takes," Ethan said firmly. "If there's even a chance it could help me understand what's happening with my heart, I'm all in." Dr. Quinn smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. I've already submitted the preliminary paperwork. We just need your consent to proceed." 2 weeks later, Ethan found himself aboard a transport shuttle bound for Meridian Research Station. Through the viewport, he watched as the massive orbital facility came into view, a gleaming array of interconnected modules surrounding a central hub, the entire structure dwarfed by the looming presence of Jupiter in the background. As the shuttle docked, Ethan couldn't help feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement. This might be his last chance to understand his condition and pursue his dreams among the stars. The station's reception area bustled with activity as researchers, technicians, and administrative staff moved purposefully through security checkpoints. Ethan followed Dr. Quinn, who had accompanied him on the journey, toward a designated waiting area. "Dr. Quinn," a voice called out. They turned to see a tall man with salt and pepper hair striding toward them, hand extended in greeting. "I'm Dr. Marcus Dean, head of xenocardiology at Meridian. Thank you for bringing this fascinating case to our attention." After brief introductions, Dr. Dean led them through a labyrinth of corridors, explaining the facility's work as they walked. Meridian was originally constructed to study the ancient dragon exclusively, he explained. But over the years, our mission has expanded to encompass all aspects of xenobiology. The dragon remains our crown jewel, of course. Will we get to see it? Ethan asked, unable to contain his curiosity. Dr. Dean smiled. Actually, your examination will take place in the adjacent laboratory. You'll have quite the view. They passed through several security checkpoints before entering a vast chamber that took Ethan's breath away. Through an enormous transparent barrier, he could see the preserved remains of the ancient dragon. Despite having seen images of the creature countless times in news reports and documentaries, nothing prepared him for the sheer scale of it in person. The ancient dragon stretched nearly 70 meters from snout to tail, its massive skeletal wings spanning even further. Even in death, preserved through advanced technology, it projected an aura of primordial power. Its skull alone was the size of a small car, rows of serrated teeth gleaming under the laboratory lights. Magnificent, isn't it? Dr. Dean said softly. We estimate it was approximately 200,000 years old when it died. The conditions on Europa preserved it almost perfectly, flash-frozen in the ice. Ethan could only nod, awestruck by the creature before him. Dr. Dean guided them to an adjoining laboratory filled with specialized equipment. This is where we'll conduct your examination. Our xenocardiology equipment is designed to analyze alien cardiovascular systems. It might help us understand what's happening with yours. The examination was extensive. For hours, Ethan underwent scans, tests, and monitoring while teams of specialists analyzed the results. The equipment was unlike anything he'd seen in ordinary hospitals, more sophisticated, more sensitive, designed to detect patterns and anomalies beyond the parameters of human physiology. As the day wore on, Ethan noticed a change in the atmosphere. The specialists began conferring in hushed tones, exchanging glances that shifted from puzzlement to excitement. More researchers were called in, including senior scientists who studied his results with intense interest. Finally, Dr. Dean approached him, accompanied by Dr. Quinn and an older woman wearing the insignia of the station's director. Mr. Cole, Dr. Dean began, his voice carefully measured. We've completed our preliminary analysis, and, well, the results are extraordinary. I'd like to introduce Station Director Dr. Amanda Blake. She'd like to discuss our findings with you. The director stepped forward. Mr. Cole, what I'm about to tell you is currently classified under Xenobiological Discovery Protocol XB7. Before we proceed, I need your agreement to maintain confidentiality until we've completed further verification. Ethan nodded, a knot forming in his stomach. Of course. Your cardiac rhythm, Dr. Blake continued, appears to match a pattern we've documented in only one other organism. She paused, glancing toward the transparent barrier. The ancient dragon. The words hung in the air between them as Ethan struggled to process their meaning. That's impossible, he finally managed. We thought so too, Dr. Quinn interjected. We've run the comparison 17 times using different analytical methods. The correlation is undeniable. Your heart beats in a pattern that mirrors the ancient dragon's cardiac system with 97.3% congruence. Dr. Dean activated a holographic display showing two waveform patterns, one labeled with Ethan's name, the other with specimen XB001, the official designation for the ancient dragon. The patterns undulated in near-perfect synchronization, complex and alien, yet undeniably similar. But how? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. How could a human heart beat like an alien creature's? Dr. Blake's expression was grave. That's what we need to find out. With your permission, we'd like to conduct additional tests. This discovery could have profound implications not just for your condition, but for our understanding of human evolution and possible ancient contact between species. Ethan stared at the massive creature beyond the barrier, feeling a strange connection he couldn't explain. Do whatever tests you need to do, he said firmly. I want answers as much as you do. The following weeks were a blur of examinations, genetic tests, and countless interviews about his family history. Ethan learned that his unusual heart had become the center of an intensive research initiative, drawing experts from diverse fields including xenobiology, genetics, evolutionary biology, and even archaeology. 1 month into his stay at Meridian, Dr. Dean requested Ethan's presence in the main conference room. When he arrived, he found not only the medical team, but also a group of serious-looking individuals he hadn't met before. Dr. Blake made the introductions. Mr. Cole, these are representatives from various scientific and governmental bodies. Dr. Cameron Lowe from the Interplanetary Genetics Consortium, Dr. Claire Dawson from Earth Historical Archives, and Riley Cooper from the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. Ethan nodded in greeting, trying not to show his nervousness. Whatever they had discovered, it was significant enough to draw attention from the highest levels of scientific and governmental authority. Dr. Dean took the lead. Ethan, we've completed our genetic analysis, and what we've found is, well, there's no precedent for it. A small segment of your DNA contains genetic markers that don't match any known terrestrial organism. You're saying I have alien DNA? Ethan's voice cracked slightly. Not exactly, Dr. Dawson clarified. What we're seeing is evidence of genetic engineering so sophisticated and so ancient that it's almost indistinguishable from natural evolution. Approximately 0.02% of your genome contains sequences that appear to have been modified using technology far beyond our current capabilities. These modifications primarily affect your cardiovascular system. Riley Cooper leaned forward. Mr. Cole, what we're about to share with you is classified at the highest level. Based on our findings, we believe that approximately 190,000 years ago, early humans had contact with the species we now call the ancient dragon, or others of its kind. These beings appear to have performed genetic modifications on a small population of humans. The room fell silent as Ethan absorbed this information. Why? He finally asked. Why would they change human DNA? Dr. Lowe spoke up. We believe it was to help humans survive. The modifications to your cardiovascular system make it extraordinarily efficient and resilient. Your heart can pump more blood with less effort, adapt to extreme conditions, and recover from stress far more quickly than an ordinary human heart. These would be significant advantages for a primitive human population facing harsh environmental challenges. The modified genetic sequences have become exceedingly rare in the modern human population, Dr. Dean added. Most carriers show no noticeable effects because the sequences have been diluted through generations of interbreeding with unmodified humans. You, however, have an unusually complete expression of these modifications. Ethan's mind raced. So I'm what? Some kind of genetic throwback? A living fossil. I prefer to think of it as a genetic legacy, Dr. Blake said gently. You're carrying the evidence of an ancient encounter that might have saved humanity when we were in our infancy as a species. Dr. Dawson cleared her throat. There's more, Mr. Cole. We've been examining archaeological records in light of this discovery. There are ancient cave paintings, dating back 190,000 years, that depict winged serpentine creatures interacting with humans. These were previously dismissed as mythological imagery, but now, they might be historical records. Ethan finished, his voice hollow. Riley Cooper nodded. Which brings us to why we're all here. The Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs is extremely interested in what your genetic makeup might tell us about this ancient species. The ancient dragon specimen has only yielded limited information due to degradation over time. But your living tissue, carrying these modified sequences, could provide insights we couldn't get any other way. Ethan leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed. What does this mean for me? Am I still human? Completely human, Dr. Quinn assured him firmly. These modifications don't make you any less human than someone with a genetic adaptation for high-altitude living or resistance to malaria. They're part of your heritage, that's all. And what about my application to the Galactic Expansion Initiative? Ethan asked. Is there any chance I could still qualify? The scientists exchanged glances. Dr. Blake spoke carefully. Actually, Mr. Cole, that's no longer the question. Given what we've learned, You've become incredibly valuable to humanity's space program in ways we never anticipated." 3 days later, Ethan found himself in a secure briefing room with Director Blake and several high-ranking officials from the Galactic Expansion Initiative. The atmosphere was tense with an undercurrent of excitement. "Mr. Cole," began Tyler Grant, the GI's chief of operations, "we believe your genetic heritage may be the key to solving one of our most persistent challenges in deep space exploration and colonization." Dr. Blake elaborated. "The ancient dragon species evolved to survive in the harsh conditions of Europa, an environment with extreme cold, radiation, and low oxygen. The cardiovascular modifications you carry appear designed to help humans adapt to similar conditions, which happen to be exactly the conditions our colonists face on frontier worlds," Grant added. "We've lost good people to cardiac stress during adaptation to alien environments. Your heart's unique properties could help us develop medical interventions to protect future colonists." Ethan processed this information slowly. "So instead of building colonies, you want me to help develop medical treatments?" "Not exactly," Grant smiled. "We want you to lead a special research team on our newest colony world, Kepler 442b. Your construction expertise would still be utilized, but you'd also participate in ongoing research. Your genetic adaptations might make you uniquely suited to the harsh conditions there. The planet has a higher radiation level than Earth," Dr. Blake explained. "Normal humans can adapt with time and medical support, but you might transition more easily. It would give us invaluable data while allowing you to pursue your dream of helping build humanity's future among the stars." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. After a lifetime of feeling like his unusual heart was a defect, a barrier to his aspirations, it had suddenly become his greatest asset, a gift from an ancient encounter between species. "When do we leave?" he asked. 6 months later, Ethan stood on the observation deck of the colony ship Prometheus, watching as Earth shrank to a pale blue dot behind them. Ahead lay a 3-year journey to Kepler 442b, most of which he would spend in cryosleep. But for now, he savored this moment of transition. Dr. Quinn joined him at the viewport. She had volunteered to serve as the medical supervisor for his research team, continuing her work with his unique physiology in the context of actual space colonization. "Having second thoughts?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "Just thinking about connections. All my life, I thought my heart was wrong. Turns out, it was beating to a rhythm established thousands of years ago, when another species reached out to help humanity survive. And now that same adaptation might help humanity thrive among the stars," Dr. Quinn mused. "There's a certain poetry to it." Ethan nodded, placing a hand over his chest, feeling the unusual 3-part rhythm that linked him to an ancient legacy. "I wonder if they knew, the dragons who changed my ancestors' DNA. Did they imagine that someday, those changes would help us reach other worlds?" "Perhaps that was always the plan," Dr. Quinn suggested. "Perhaps they saw something in humanity worth preserving and enhancing." As the ship accelerated toward its distant destination, Ethan watched the stars streak past. His unusual heart, once considered a defect, now represented humanity's connection to its cosmic past and its boundless future among the stars. But that future would prove more complex and challenging than anyone aboard the Prometheus could have imagined. The Prometheus reached Kepler 442b after a journey of just under 3 years. Ethan awoke from cryosleep feeling remarkably well, especially compared to most of the crew, who struggled with the after-effects of prolonged suspended animation. The medical team noted his rapid recovery with interest, speculating that his modified cardiovascular system might provide enhanced resilience to cryogenic stress. Kepler 442b was a world of stark beauty and harsh contrasts. From orbit, vast oceans of deep purple surrounded continents of rusty orange and crimson. The atmosphere was thicker than Earth's, but breathable with filtration masks until colonists acclimated to the higher nitrogen content. The colony site had been selected by robotic survey probes years earlier, a sheltered valley nestled between towering red mountains, with access to fresh water and arable land. Prefabricated habitat modules had already been deployed by automated ships, providing the basic infrastructure for the first wave of colonists. As the colony's construction specialist with unique biological adaptations, Ethan was among the first to set foot on the planet's surface. The moment his boots touched the rusty soil, he felt a strange sensation, a subtle vibration that seemed to resonate with the beating of his heart. Dr. Quinn, monitoring his vitals through his suit's telemetry, noticed the change immediately. "Ethan, your cardiac rhythm just shifted. How do you feel?" "Fine," he responded, surprised to realize it was true. "Better than fine, actually. It's hard to explain, but I feel connected to this place somehow." Over the following weeks, this connection deepened as Ethan worked tirelessly to help establish the colony. While other colonists struggled with the higher gravity and peculiar atmospheric composition, Ethan thrived. His unusual heart seemed perfectly adapted to the conditions, pumping oxygen-rich blood through his system with remarkable efficiency. The research team documented everything, collecting data that might help develop treatments to help future colonists adapt more easily. But they also noted something unexpected. The longer Ethan stayed on Kepler, for 42b, the more pronounced his cardiac peculiarities became. The third sound in his heartbeat grew stronger, and the patterns more complex, as if his body was responding to something in the environment. 2 months after landing, while supervising the construction of the colony's geothermal power plant, Ethan's team made a startling discovery. As they drilled into the planet's crust to access its thermal energy, their sensors detected an anomaly, a vast cavity deep beneath the mountain range, lined with a material that deflected their scanning equipment. "It's not natural," concluded Bryce Garrett, the team's geological engineer, studying the sensor readings with a furrowed brow. "The cavity walls are too smooth, too regular. And that material, it's not registering as any element or compound we recognize." Colony Director Grace Mitchell ordered a more detailed survey, dispatching drones equipped with advanced scanning technology to map the mysterious structure. The results confirmed their suspicions. The cavity was artificial, an immense chamber carved into the bedrock of the planet. An exploration team was assembled immediately. As someone already acclimated to the planet's conditions, Ethan was selected to join the first expedition into the underground structure. Dr. Quinn insisted on accompanying him, both to monitor his physical responses and because she had become one of the foremost experts on the ancient dragon genetic modifications. The entrance to the subterranean chamber was concealed beneath layers of sediment, accessible only through a narrow fissure revealed by their drilling operation. As Ethan descended through the opening, the strange resonance he had felt since arriving on the planet intensified. His heart beat faster, but with a steady rhythm that felt increasingly natural to him. "Your cardiac output is exceptional," Dr. Quinn noted, checking his biometrics. "Any normal human would be showing signs of stress at this point, but your heart is compensating perfectly." The passage widened suddenly, opening into a vast chamber that left the exploration team speechless. The space stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction, its ceiling soaring to dizzying heights. But what truly stunned them wasn't the scale, it was what the chamber contained. Suspended in a translucent, amber-like substance that filled much of the chamber was an immense creature, a being that bore an unmistakable resemblance to the ancient dragon discovered on Europa, yet with subtle differences. This specimen was larger, its proportions slightly altered, with more developed limbs and a cranial structure that suggested greater intelligence. "It's not dead," Dr. Quinn whispered, her voice tight with awe and disbelief as she studied her handheld scanner. "There are electromagnetic patterns consistent with neural activity. Minimal, but present. This creature is in some form of suspended animation." The other team members spread out, documenting the chamber and its extraordinary occupant. They discovered console-like structures around the perimeter, covered in symbols unlike any human writing system. But it was Ethan who made the most startling discovery. As he approached the amber encasement, The material began to glow with a soft, pulsing light, a rhythm that matched his heartbeat perfectly. With each pulse, the neural activity in the suspended dragon increased slightly. "It's responding to you," Dr. Quinn realized, watching the readings fluctuate in synchrony with Ethan's heartbeat. Or more specifically, to your heart rhythm. Colony Director Mitchell immediately implemented containment protocols, securing the site and classifying all information about their discovery. Within days, specialists from Earth were en route to Kepler 442b, including xenobiologists, linguists, and representatives from the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. While they waited for the specialists to arrive, Dr. Quinn conducted exhaustive tests, confirming what they all suspected: the genetic modifications in Ethan's heart had originated with this species. But why had these beings engineered such changes in ancient humans? And why was this individual in suspended animation on a planet over 20 light-years from Earth? The answers began to emerge as xenolinguists made progress deciphering the symbols in the chamber. According to their preliminary translations, the dragon-like beings called themselves the Valari, an ancient species that had explored the galaxy millions of years before humans evolved. The Valari had discovered early humans during an expedition to Earth approximately 200,000 years ago. Recognizing humanity's potential but also our vulnerability to cosmic threats, they had introduced specific genetic modifications to a small population. Modifications designed to help humans withstand the rigors of space travel and adapt to extraterrestrial environments. "They were preparing us," Ethan murmured, reading the translation report. Even then, they were preparing humanity for the stars. But the most startling revelation came from understanding why this particular Valari was in suspended animation on Kepler 442b. According to the translated records, the Valari had faced extinction from a virulent cosmic plague that attacked their neural systems. With their civilization collapsing, they had sent their last uninfected individuals to distant worlds, preserved in biostasis until they could be revived safely. The revival protocol required a specific activation sequence, a heartbeat pattern carrying the genetic signature they had gifted to humanity thousands of years earlier. It was a safeguard, ensuring they would only be awakened by the descendants of those they had helped, once those descendants had achieved sufficient technological advancement to reach the stars. They needed to ensure that whoever revived them would be sympathetic, Riley Cooper explained, having arrived with the specialist team from Earth. What better way than to ensure it would be a species they had once aided? The implications were staggering. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien intelligence wouldn't be a meeting of strangers, but a reunion with beings who had influenced our evolutionary path. Beings who had encoded the means of their own salvation into human DNA, creating a connection that spanned millennia. As the specialists continued their work, the question arose: should they attempt to revive the Valari individual? The potential benefits of contacting an advanced species were enormous, but so were the risks. The decision ultimately fell to a council comprising colony leadership, Earth authorities, and scientific experts. After days of deliberation, they reached a consensus. They would proceed with the revival attempt, with extensive safeguards in place. Ethan, as the carrier of the activation sequence, would play a central role. The revival process was complex, requiring Ethan to connect to a Valari biointerface that amplified his cardiac rhythm and transmitted it through the amber-like stasis medium. For hours, Ethan sat motionless beside the enormous suspended being, machines synchronizing his heartbeat with the awakening neural patterns of the ancient creature. Gradually, the stasis medium began to dissolve, evaporating into a fine mist that was carefully contained and analyzed. The Valari's massive body was revealed, iridescent scales in shades of deep blue and violet, powerful limbs ending in dexterous appendages, and wings folded tightly against its torso. As the last of the stasis medium dissipated, the chamber fell silent. Everyone held their breath, watching for any sign of movement from the colossal being. Suddenly, Ethan's heart rate spiked. His chest burned with a strange sensation, not pain, but an intense pressure that radiated outward. Before anyone could react, a pulse of energy emanated from the Valari, washing over everyone present. When it subsided, Ethan heard a voice, not with his ears, but resonating directly in his mind. Asterisk gratitude. Connection. Recognition. Asterisk. The concepts flowed into his consciousness, accompanied by emotions too complex to name. He understood instinctively that the Valari was communicating telepathically, using the genetic connection between them as a conduit. "It's communicating with me," Ethan gasped, looking to Dr. Quinn. "Through some kind of telepathic link." The Valari's massive eye opened slowly, a brilliant orb of gold with a vertical pupil that contracted in the chamber's light. Its gaze fixed on Ethan with unmistakable intelligence and awareness. Asterisk long sleep. New world. The seedlings have become trees. Asterisk. Images accompanied the concepts. Earth as it was 200,000 years ago, primitive humans gathered around fires, the Valari working with genetic material, and finally, a vision of humans traveling among the stars. With tremendous effort, the Valari began to move, unfurling its massive wings and rising to its full height. Even in its weakened state, the creature was majestic, nearly 80 meters from snout to tail, with a presence that commanded awe and respect. Through Ethan, a dialogue began between humanity and the ancient being. The Valari identified itself as Thalarin, a scientist and preserver of its species' knowledge. It had entered stasis 175,000 years ago, one of dozens sent to different worlds in a desperate attempt to preserve the Valari civilization from extinction. Over the following weeks, as Thalarin regained strength, it shared the accumulated wisdom of its species through its telepathic link with Ethan. The Valari had explored thousands of worlds across the galaxy, established outposts on hundreds, and contacted numerous intelligent species. They had been guardians and guides, helping younger civilizations navigate the perils of technological advancement and cosmic threats. The plague that had decimated their civilization, Thalarin explained, had been a weapon deployed by a hostile intelligence from beyond the galaxy. Beings the Valari called the Void Harbingers, who sought to eliminate all complex life for reasons the Valari never fully understood. Asterisk warning. Preparation. Vigilance. Asterisk. The concepts came with a sense of urgency. The Harbingers operated on vast timescales, their incursions separated by hundreds of thousands of years. If their pattern held, they would return, and humanity needed to be ready. This revelation transformed the mission of the Kepler 442b colony overnight. What had begun as a standard colonization effort became the center of an interspecies collaboration to prepare humanity for a threat few could comprehend. Thalarin worked closely with human scientists, sharing Valari technology and knowledge while studying how humanity had evolved since their last encounter. Ethan's role evolved as well. His genetic connection to Thalarin made him an ideal intermediary, able to understand concepts and technologies that might otherwise take decades to comprehend. Though the telepathic communication was taxing, causing migraines and exhaustion, Ethan embraced his role with determination. "Do you ever regret it?" Dr. Quinn asked him one evening, as they watched Thalarin soaring above the colony in a test flight, its massive wings casting shadows across the settlement. "Regret what?" Ethan asked. "Being different. Having a heart that set you apart your whole life. Being thrust into this position between worlds." Ethan considered the question seriously. "I used to think my heart was wrong, that I was broken somehow. Now I understand it was always beating to a rhythm established eons ago, connecting me to a legacy I couldn't have imagined." He watched Thalarin bank gracefully against the alien sunset. "How could I regret being part of something so much larger than myself?" As months passed, other Valari preservation chambers were discovered across the galaxy, each containing individuals with specialized knowledge or skills. Each was awakened using the genetic key carried by humans with sufficiently expressed Valari modifications, rare individuals like Ethan, who became known as Resonants. A new era of cooperation between humans and Valari began. Humanity gained access to technologies centuries beyond our development, while the Valari found purpose in preparing a younger species to face the threat that had nearly destroyed them. On Kepler 442b, a sprawling complex arose around the original colony, part research center, part cultural exchange, and part defense installation. At its heart stood the resonance chamber, where Ethan and other resonants worked with Valari partners to develop technologies that merged the strengths of both species. 3 years after Thalarin's awakening, the early warning system they had constructed detected a disturbing signal from the galactic fringe, energy patterns consistent with the approach of Void Harbinger scouts. Humanity faced its greatest challenge far sooner than anyone had anticipated. With only 37 revived Valari and a handful of resonants to guide them, the prospect of confronting an enemy that had nearly exterminated an advanced civilization seemed bleak. "We're not ready," Riley Cooper argued during an emergency council session. "The defensive systems are still theoretical, our understanding of Harbinger technology is incomplete, and most of humanity doesn't even know this threat exists." Thalarin's response, transmitted through Ethan, was resolute. "The seedlings have become trees, but you have yet to recognize your own strength. The Valari modified your ancestors not only to survive, but to exceed us. Your adaptability, your creativity, your capacity for innovation under pressure, these are weapons the Harbingers cannot counter." The message sparked a realization. While the Valari had superior technology, humans possessed qualities the Harbingers had never encountered: unpredictability, intuitive leaps, and the ability to find unconventional solutions. "We don't need to match their technology exactly," Ethan suggested. "We need to approach this differently, using what makes us human alongside what the Valari can teach us." A bold plan emerged. Rather than attempting to build defenses identical to those that had failed the Valari, humanity would develop hybrid technologies that incorporated human ingenuity with Valari knowledge. The resonants would serve as bridges between the species, translating concepts and facilitating the technological integration. Working around the clock, the combined human-Valari teams developed systems unlike anything either species had created before. Human AI specialists collaborated with Valari consciousness architects to create predictive systems that could anticipate Harbinger strategies. Human physicists and Valari energy masters designed weapons that exploited weaknesses the Valari had identified but never managed to target effectively. As the detection systems tracked the approaching Harbinger vessels, the first line of defense was deployed, a network of automated platforms that combined Valari energy manipulation with human-designed adaptive algorithms. When the initial Harbinger scouts encountered this hybrid technology, they were unable to penetrate its constantly evolving defenses. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Harbingers were repelled without gaining significant intelligence about their target. Human unpredictability had created a defense the methodical Harbingers couldn't decode. The victory was minor but significant, proof that the human-Valari alliance had potential. But everyone understood this was merely the beginning of a conflict that might span generations. In the aftermath of the first engagement, Thalarin summoned Ethan to a private meeting in the resonance chamber. The massive Valari's thoughts carried a weight of emotion Ethan had never felt before. Gratitude, pride, hope, what you've done, Ethan translated for the others present, is unprecedented. No species the Valari aided has ever exceeded our expectations as dramatically as humanity. In our darkest hour, we modified your ancestors, hoping that someday you might remember us. Instead, you may well save us, and countless other civilizations the Harbingers would destroy. Dr. Quinn, who had been instrumental in developing medical technologies to strengthen the resonance abilities, asked the question that had lingered since Thalarin's awakening. Why did you choose humans? There must have been other species with potential. Through Ethan, Thalarin shared a memory. Valari scientists observing early humans struggling to survive an ice age, fashioning tools from limited materials, cooperating to overcome challenges that should have eradicated them. Despite their physical fragility, these early humans had displayed remarkable determination and ingenuity. Asterisk the spark. We recognized it immediately. The same quality that led us to the stars. But in you, it burns brighter, fiercer. We did not create this spark. We merely ensured it would have the chance to become a flame. Asterisk. The revelation moved Ethan deeply. The Valari hadn't altered humanity's essential nature. They had preserved it, ensuring that the qualities that made us human would survive long enough to reach their full potential. As the war against the Harbingers intensified over the following years, the Human Valari alliance expanded. More preservation chambers were discovered and opened. More resonants were identified and trained. Colonies throughout habitable systems became centers of research, manufacturing, and defense. Ethan's unusual heart, once considered a medical anomaly, became recognized as a symbol of the connection between species. The cardiac rhythm that had once kept him from the stars now represented humanity's bridge to its cosmic allies and its commitment to defending life throughout the galaxy. 10 years after the awakening of Thalarin, humanity faced the main Harbinger fleet, a confrontation that tested every technology, strategy, and alliance they had developed. The battle spanned weeks, with losses on both sides. But the hybrid defenses held. The human Valari forces prevailed against an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. In the aftermath, as reconstruction began and plans were made to pursue the retreating Harbingers to their source, Ethan found himself standing once again on the observation deck of a spacecraft. But this time, he wasn't leaving Earth. He was returning for the first time in over a decade. Dr. Quinn, now his wife and partner in the Resonance program, joined him at the viewport. Nervous about the summit, Ethan nodded. Representatives from every nation on Earth would be attending the conference to formalize humanity's new role in galactic affairs. As one of the original Resonants and a key architect of the hybrid technologies that had saved countless lives, Ethan would address the assembly. A little, he admitted. How do you explain to people that humanity's greatest strength was there all along? That what the Valari did wasn't to make us more like them, but to ensure we would remain uniquely human. You'll find the words, she assured him, taking his hand. Your heart knows the rhythm. As their ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Ethan felt the familiar three-part beat of his heart, the rhythm that had once marked him as different, then connected him to an ancient legacy, and finally helped forge an alliance that changed the course of galactic history. His heart had always beat to its own rhythm. The doctors had been wrong. It wasn't a defect. It was a bridge between worlds, between past and future, between what humanity had been and what it might become. And as the ship descended toward a world forever changed by contact with the Valari, Ethan understood that his unusual heartbeat had never been wrong at all. It had simply been waiting, like the Valari themselves, for the moment when humanity was ready to hear its message and recognize the cosmic rhythm that connected all living things across the vast expanses of space and time. The summit proceeded better than anyone could have anticipated. Nations that had been adversaries for centuries united under the banner of galactic defense. The knowledge shared by the Valari, carefully curated to prevent technological disruptions that might destabilize human society, catalyzed advancements in medicine, energy production, and environmental restoration. Within a generation, Earth was transformed. Diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia were eradicated. Clean energy systems based on Valari principles eliminated pollution and resource scarcity. The genetic modifications originally introduced by the Valari were studied and adapted into treatments that extended human lifespans and enhanced resilience to harsh environments, making colonization of previously uninhabitable worlds possible. 50 years after the awakening of Thalarin, humanity had established a presence in over 40 star systems. The Valari, now numbering in the hundreds as more preservation chambers were discovered, worked alongside their human allies as teachers, advisors, and partners. The Resonants, individuals like Ethan with the genetic markers that facilitated communication with the Valari, became diplomats and interpreters, bridging the gap between species. Ethan, now in his late 70s, but with the vitality of a much younger man thanks to Valari medical knowledge, stood on the observation platform of Harmony Station, an enormous orbital facility constructed in the L1 point between Earth and its moon. Beside him, Thalarin watched as a new class of interstellar vessels prepared for their maiden voyage. "Did you ever imagine this?" Ethan asked, not needing to vocalize the question for Thalarin to understand. After decades of telepathic communication, their connection had deepened to the point where thoughts flowed effortlessly between them. Hope, yes. Certainty, no. The Valari's response carried nuances of emotion that defied simple translation. When we preserved our kind, when we modified your ancestors, we planted seeds without knowing if they would ever bear fruit. That they have flourished beyond our wildest expectations is a joy beyond measure. The fleet of ships departing Earth represented the culmination of human-Valari cooperation, vessels designed to seek out other preservation chambers across the galaxy, to contact other intelligent species, and to establish a network of civilizations united against threats like the Harbingers. As the ships engaged their engines, hybrid systems that incorporated principles neither humans nor Valari would have developed independently, Ethan felt a familiar resonance in his chest. His modified heart, the connection that had started everything, beat in rhythm with something larger than himself, the pulse of a galactic community taking its first steps together. Dr. Quinn, her hair now silver but her eyes as bright as ever, joined them on the platform. "The medical council has confirmed it," she said. "The genetic modifications are manifesting in the new generation at an unprecedented rate. Nearly 5% of children born in the colonies show the resonant pattern. This was remarkable news. For thousands of generations, the Valari modifications had remained dormant in most humans, expressing fully in perhaps 1 in a million individuals. The increased expression suggested humanity was evolving along a path the Valari had glimpsed 200,000 years ago, a path toward a deeper connection with the cosmos and its myriad forms of life. Evolution by choice, Ethan mused. Not random mutation, but conscious direction. Thalarin's thoughts resonated with approval. The greatest gift any species can receive is the power to guide its own development wisely. You have earned that gift. As the last of the ships disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying the message of alliance to distant stars, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had begun with a medical anomaly, a heart that beat wrong. It had led to the discovery of humanity's cosmic heritage and the revival of an ancient species. It had culminated in a partnership that promised to reshape the galaxy. All because doctors had been wrong about his heart. His unusual cardiac rhythm had never been a defect. It had been a message encoded in his DNA by beings who had recognized humanity's potential when we were still huddled in caves. It had been an inheritance passed down through countless generations, waiting for the moment when humanity reached for the stars. And now, as ships bearing both humans and Valari ventured into the cosmic deep, that message was being carried to new worlds and new species. The rhythm that had once marked Ethan as different had become a symphony of cooperation that would echo across the stars for millennia to come. His heart had always beaten to the rhythm of the future, a future where humanity's place among the stars was secured not by conquest or competition, but by connection and cooperation. A future where the boundaries between species dissolved in the recognition of shared purpose and mutual respect. A future that had begun with a simple misconception. Doctors said his heart beat wrong, until they realized it matched the ancient dragon's heart. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.